Hi, welcome to Audiobook Academy. This is a self-paced audiobook. There's no need to keep an eye on things. Just pay attention. Thank you for taking the time to listen. This is a book summary of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. A Counterintuitive Approach to Living a Good Life. By Mark Manson. Not caring about what people think is a form of art in the 21st century. Despite the fact that we've never had more options, or more freedom, we're not necessarily living the best lives possible. In the modern world of the illusion of choice, we compare our possessions and personalities to those of others. How to Live a Good Life, The Art of Not Giving a Fuck is a book that explores our inclination to seek out advice on how to live a happy life. Criticizes self-help books and advice that is neither practical nor helpful and often makes the reader feel bad for not being able to implement such seemingly simple suggestions. The problem with the hyper-positive era of self-help is that it messes up our mindset. It gives us the impression that we can achieve our desired state of well-being by simply trying harder. That we're unique and deserving of special treatment. According to these perspectives, suffering should be feared and avoided at all costs. It is Mark Manson's belief that a great deal of contemporary advice is fundamentally flawed. It's his contention that a conventional and in his opinion mistaken quest for happiness actually sets the stage for a hard life to follow. He offers an alternative viewpoint for the no-nonsense seeker in his best-selling anti-cultural book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. In 2009, Mark Manson launched a dating advice website, which catapulted him to fame in the blogosphere. He is now writing about a wide range of topics, including life, death, and love. But Manson isn't your typical self-help bestseller. His work is credible and relatable because he combines academic research with his own personal experiences. Punchy and profane, with the occasional poop joke to keep you laughing, is his writing style. Kumbaya self-help books may be in short supply, but Manson's blunt honesty about life and how to live it may provide a much-needed alternative. As a result of his advice, we should re-examine our goals in life as well as how we deal with setbacks. To further encourage us, we're encouraged to examine our own values and encouraged to replace smug values with those of generosity, kindness, and humility. As a final point, the author argues that life should not revolve around FOMO, or the fear of missing out, and that we should instead get to work. Damn the positivity and stop searching for happiness. One of the main points of this book is that if we want a happier, stress-free life, we should give up on trying so hard to be happy and instead adopt a damn the positivity attitude. After all, it is in the midst of our trials that we find meaning in this life. We should care about some things, but only those that truly matter to us, according to the advice. For Manson, the most important things in life are family, friends, a sense of purpose, and burritos, if you're into that. There are only so many things we can worry about, so choose wisely. The pursuit of happiness is often what leads to an existential crisis of the mind. In fact, Manson states unequivocally that the whole how to be happy shtick is a load of bull. By focusing on what's better, or who's better, or what we are, we keep being reminded of what we aren't. We are also forced to consider what we lack and what we should have been but were unable to accomplish. True happiness does not necessitate repeated affirmations in front of one's own reflection. She is who she is. It's a hard truth to face. The more you try to feel better all the time, the less content you are. This is because striving for something only serves to confirm how lacking you already are. As a result, we shouldn't aim for happiness because doing so will only lead to misery. Sorry, but you're not special. There is a "but I'm so special" crisis going on right now. Because we've been told that we're unique, we all believe that we are. We have a growing sense of entitlement because of the current socio-cultural message that life and happiness are the result of hard work and sacrifice. The belief that we're unique and special snowflakes sets us up for the idea that we need to be constantly happy. In addition, we believe that we are entitled to preferential treatment. The rules of life don't seem to apply to us in any way because we're so unique. As a result, things that make us uncomfortable, such as failure, rejection, and struggle, are seen as threats to our safety. Struggle, on the other hand, is a necessary component of growth, development, and, ultimately, contentment. That we all need to reclaim our sense of perspective and let go of the pressure to be exceptional is a key message. It's important to remember that most of what we do in life is going to be relatively unremarkable and uninteresting. If we can accept this truth, we will be able to breathe a little easier in the long term. We can stop searching for ways to make up for our lack of self-confidence. When our expectations are in line with reality, we can appreciate the simple pleasures of life, such as spending time with friends, giving back to the community, and tackling the challenges that life throws our way. Make sure you don't get bogged down in a rut by overthinking things too much. Over-attachment can lead to a negative feedback loop that is impossible to escape from. Our biology is wired to care about the world around us, so there's no such thing as not caring. We get into trouble when we obsess over things that aren't really that important. We're also prone to measuring our self-worth against fictitious societal norms, and when we fall short, we get down on ourselves. Because of this, we are sucked into a never-ending feedback loop. On Facebook or Instagram, how many times have you seen the best time ever had by all your friends and acquaintances? As a result, we feel as if our lives don't measure up to those of others. We assume that everyone else is happy, and if we don't feel that way, we must be doing something wrong. We're sorry. When we feel bad about feeling bad, it encourages us to feel guilty about our feelings of guilt. Another possibility is that we will become enraged at the very thought of becoming enraged. As a newbie, you've entered the feedback loop of death. Because of the way our minds work, we get agitated about being agitated and then we get agitated about being agitated. As a result, the anxiety spirals out of control, like the opening theme of a DVD menu. Because of the abundance of content and information that technology has made available to us, we are constantly being bombarded with messages telling us that we fall short of what others expect of us. In our minds, we think we're not good enough and that our lives aren't what they should be. Because being caught in a feedback loop from hell is hellish, it's possible that this will lead to anxiety and neurosis. As a result, in order to break the endless cycle, we must let go of our fixation on the trivial and instead embrace a more realistic outlook on life. There will be bad days in life, but that's okay. It's perfectly fine that not everything in life is going to be peaches and cream. Regardless of what we do in life, there will always be challenges to overcome. In many cases, the problem stems from our own biases and preconceptions. Our toxic self-help messages lead us to believe that life should be easy and comfortable all the time. A generation of people have grown up believing that hardship and dealing with negative emotions should be avoided at all costs because of this toxic positivity. The ability to face our fears and anxieties and work through them is something that can only be achieved through a combination of suffering and hard work. For many, the most meaningful experiences have come from times of hardship. So buckle up, because the road ahead will not always be smooth. Life stuff, get a helmet, is a well-known saying. It's a fact that life can be extremely difficult at times, and it always will be. We decide to care about something based on how we decide what is worth fighting for. If you want something, it's better to ask yourself what you're willing to endure or fight for it instead of simply asking what you want. Because there is no such thing as a problem-free life, it is best to give up on the idea of finding one. Every time a problem occurs, it is replaced or upgraded. So, instead of trying to avoid difficulties, think of happiness as something that encourages you to work toward overcoming them. Stop blaming others and take charge of your own life. That we're not merely passive bystanders is another hard truth that we must face head-on and accept. It's important to keep in mind that you have an infinite number of options available to you at any given time, regardless of the circumstances. Despite the fact that we have no control over what happens to us, we do have control over our reactions. People go through life feeling like their experiences have been foisted on them. We're all guilty of succumbing to the victim mentality at times. This kind of behavior can be seen in people like William James. A wealthy American family raised him in the 19th century. Throughout his childhood, he was plagued by illness, constant vomiting, and excruciating back spasms. He wanted to be a painter, but he couldn't make it work, so he decided to go into medicine, but he dropped out after a short time. In the eyes of his father, he was an untalented child. William James came across the advice of a philosopher, Charles Peirce, when he was close to taking his own life. Individuals, according to Peirce, should take full responsibility for their own lives. As a result, James came to understand that his problems were not his fault, but rather the result of circumstances beyond his control, such as his ill health and his father's criticism of his academic abilities. He relaunched his life with a newfound sense of confidence. William James was a pioneer in American psychology because he accepted responsibility for his actions and put in the effort to achieve it over the course of many years. It's a complete waste of time to worry about things that don't matter or that you have no control over. In the end, failure is a path to progress. When was the last time you took a leap of faith and jumped into an unfamiliar situation headfirst? People avoid risk because they don't want to fail at anything. When we fail, we lose sight of who we are as a person. According to the author's law of avoidance, we tend to run away from anything that threatens our sense of self or our sense of belonging. Many amateur artists and writers, for example, do not want their work to be publicized or sold. There is a fear that their work will be disliked by the public and that this will damage their sense of self-identity. Possibilities are the foundation on which identities are built, but they are also the most fragile. In many cases, the fear of failure is so great that we avoid taking any risks at all. Buddhist teachings tell us that our identities are a fabrication. Labels like happy or sad, successful or unsuccessful, etc., are all constructs of the mind. We shouldn't let them control our lives because they aren't real. In other words, allowing ourselves to fail and grow requires that we let go of our preconceived notions of who we should be. "I have not failed 1,000 times," Thomas Edison is reputed to have said when he invented the light bulb. "I've figured out 1,000 ways to avoid making a light bulb." Small mistakes are the building blocks of success, according to this passage. That being said, it's likely that someone who is better at something than you is doing so because they've had more failures than you have in the past. Most of our lives are defined by the moments when we don't give a damn and decide to do something anyway. Don't be afraid to take action if you don't feel like making a big change in your life. Anything. Use this emotional response as a source of inspiration to help you succeed. The do something principle refers to this process of putting aside motivation in favor of action. Taking action comes first because inspiration grows from there, and motivation grows from there. In other words, you can't start with motivation and hope to break out of a never-ending cycle. Re-evaluate your criteria for determining success and failure. Comparisons should be avoided at all costs. The tale of two guitarists, Dave Mustaine and Pete Best, is a good example. At the height of their fame, Mustaine was booted from his band in 1983. When his former bandmates were not successful, he was motivated to prove his worth by becoming more successful than they were. A new band was formed after he put in long hours honing his craft. Megadeth was the name of his new band. Throughout their career, Megadeth sold more than 25 million records. Surely this is a tale of success, isn't it? Mustaine is out of the question. In spite of his success, he continued to compare it to the success of his former band, Metallica. Mustaine's joy was snatched away by this comparison to one of the world's most popular music acts, Metallica. Despite Megadeth's undeniable success, his standard for success and happiness was to be more successful than his former bandmates, which left him disappointed. Pete Best, on the other hand, was looking for success and happiness in entirely different ways. Best, like Mustaine, was booted from a band just as it was about to break out. The group in question was none other than the venerable Beatles. Initially, Best was depressed as he watched his bandmates achieve success that he couldn't have imagined. However, by altering his point of view, he transformed his values. He came to the realization that a loving family and a contented home life were the most important things in his life. However, he still wanted to play music, but he didn't want it to define his entire existence. With this shift in focus, Best found happiness and contentment in his life. He even returned to making music, but for less well-known bands. The most important takeaway from these stories is that our values matter far more than our success if we want to be happy for the long term. We need to get rid of the negative values that hold us back and replace them with positive ones that bring us joy and contentment. Often, we feel the happiest when we're creating something new, being generous, or acting with humility. Instead of chasing fame and fortune and wishing you were someone or somewhere else, live in the present because fear of missing out, FOMO, is a killer of joy. In the end, prioritizing our values, choosing what's important to us, and actually doing something about our choices are all part of the process of improving oneself. When we become overly concerned with everyone and everything, we run into trouble. It's time to let go of the idea that we're entitled to perpetual contentment and joy. The way we think about adversity also needs to be changed. Having to deal with hardships is not the same as being subjected to unfairness. Everything is not a failure, nothing is a personal slight, and nothing is a betrayal when faced with a challenge. Is it possible to get trapped in our own personal feedback loop from hell if we obsess over needing to be fulfilled and happy all of the time? As a result, we are perpetually on the move, yet we never arrive or accomplish anything. Things that don't matter and are out of our control are best not to worry about. As a result, we should instead focus on values that are within our control and that are beneficial to the greater good. That which we're willing to fight for and care about defines us as individuals. Thank you for listening in Audiobook Academy. Please don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. See you in next audiobook.